premiums, and there was some kind of trust fund, but it was all a lie. Nobody paid a premium, they paid a tax. There is no real trust fund. The government just spends all the money. Social Security is not funded like a private sector retirement program. In fact, if the private sector ran a retirement program the way the government runs Social Security, they'd all be in jail because they're running a Ponzi scheme, and Ponzi schemes are illegal. But this is an intergenerational Ponzi scheme, and we're on the verge of...
Welcome back, folks. Today we're diving into Peter Schiff's analysis of the American dream and the challenges facing Social Security. Join us as we explore Schiff's perspective on how the pursuit of home ownership has evolved, driven by easy access to mortgages and government interventions. We'll also delve into the complexities of Social Security, as Schiff sheds light on its unsustainable trajectory and the implications for future generations. Get ready for a deep dive into these pressing economic topics, and let's uncover the truths together.
That the American dream was just owning a home and then just getting rich because your home appreciates. The American dream meant that you can come to America and work hard and succeed. And you can earn enough money to buy a home, right? Not that the dream wasn't owning the home. The dream was to be able to afford to buy one because you came to a free country where you can rise as far as your talents and your ambition and your drive will take you, right? You weren't, your lot in life wasn't preconditioned based on who your parents were, or whether you were nobility or something, or whether you were connected to the government, right? Everybody had a fair shot in America. I mean, if you worked hard and you were smart, you persevered, right? Anybody could get rich. Anybody can go from the mailroom to the boardroom, and you could get rich. And when you get rich, you buy a house. But they perverted the American dream, which was this: I'm going to buy a house. I don't have to work very hard. I just have to qualify for a mortgage, and then my house is going to go way up, and I'm going to get rich because I own a home, right? that again, the realtors made this up, but it was possible because of the cheap money from the Fed that was inflating home prices. And the introduction of all kinds of government subsidies, guaranteed loans, and other programs that made it easier for people to pay higher prices for houses. And that kept pumping up prices so that people who already own homes could sell them for a larger amount of money, or could use them for collateral to borrow more money. But this is all part of the bubble, and it's part of the problem that we're dealing with. Social Security. That's another, problem, massive problem. It dates all the way back to the creation of the Ponzi scheme in the 1930s with Roosevelt. So before the 1930s, there was no Social Security. So the country made it from, 1790 to 1834 or whatever it was, or 1934, without any Social Security. And in fact, Social Security didn't even apply to the self-employed until the mid-1950s. So if you ran your own small business, you weren't even part of the Social Security system. It was just, people who had a job, right, a W-2 employees that were taking part. But the whole thing was a lie because they pretended it was insurance. They said you were paying premiums, and there was some kind of trust fund, but it was all a lie. Nobody paid a premium, they paid a tax. There is no real trust fund. The government just spends all the money. Social Security is not funded like a private sector retirement program. In fact, if the private sector ran a retirement program the way the government runs Social Security, they'd all be in jail because they're running a Ponzi scheme, and Ponzi schemes are illegal. But this is an intergenerational Ponzi scheme, and we're on the verge of complete implosion. The baby boom, and I am at the tail end of the baby boom. I was born in 1963. The last boomer was born in 1964. Right? And so I'm 61. And so I'm almost at retirement age, right? Some people don't retire until 67, the 70, but most of the baby boom has already entered retirement. But the rest of us are chasing it pretty quick, right? We're going to get there. There's no money. In fact, these phony Social Security trust funds, the way the trust funds worked is the government would collect Social Security taxes, then pay out the benefits. And if there was any money left over, the government borrowed it out and put an IOU in the trust fund, a government bond. So any extra money that was left over, the government just spent it on other programs. And so there's no money there. The government took it all. And, right now, the Social Security funds are actually collecting less in taxes than they're spending already. So the system already doesn't work. And so what the government is doing now is they're taking the treasury bonds that are in those trust funds and they're selling them into the market. So in addition to the national debt, right, where we have to sell $2 or $3 trillion a year of treasuries to fund the national debt, the Social Security trust funds are also selling treasuries to the same pool of buyers to pay Social Security, fund the deficit. Now it's competing, and we have a bigger deficit because of the selling of treasuries out of these phony trust funds. And so that's another part of this debt, bomb that's about to go off, because the biggest buyers of our debt used to be the Fed, foreign central banks, and government trust funds. Government trust funds are selling, the Fed is selling, and foreign central banks aren't buying. The next thing is they're going to really start selling. So this whole bond bubble collapses, and either interest rates skyrocket or inflation skyrockets, because the Federal Reserve prevents rates from skyrocketing by printing even more money to buy up the bonds that everybody else is selling. And they reverse course, and they go from quantitative tightening back to quantitative easing on steroids, and then inflation goes through the roof. But, Social Security was a horrible idea. It was sold to the public as a lie. They never would have approved it had the government been honest about its financing. But it's unconstitutional. The government should not be involved in this. People should save for their own retirement. They would do a much better job than the government, because the government didn't save a nickel. They took everybody's money and then spent it all. But if people had their Social Security taxes and what the employer paid on their behalf, which would have been theirs if the employer didn't send it to the government instead of the worker, they could have built a real retirement nest egg. Instead, they depend on a government Ponzi scheme, which unfortunately, isn't going to work, because it's done. The thing is unraveling as we speak, and people think, well, it's going to be a problem for the future when the trust funds run out of money. They're already broke, and the only money they have is government debt that they sell.
As we conclude our discussion on the American dream and the challenges surrounding Social Security, we hope you've gained valuable insights into these complex economic issues. Remember, staying informed is the first step toward understanding and addressing the challenges we face. We encourage you to continue exploring diverse perspectives and engaging in constructive conversations. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Until next time, take care and keep seeking knowledge.